What up, comrades? Hope everyone's doing well. We're here to talk about Chapter 18 of Nikke Got Us a Victory, Hero. So this starts off with Sayun watching a broadcast. There's raptures attacking near the Ark, and Rion's trying to get her attention, her little assistant. Sayun's ignoring her completely. And then at some point, she's like, hey, is the broadcast ready? And then Rion's like, yes. Maxwell set up drones. She's filming everything. And then Sayun tells Rion to send out the broadcast. And Rion's like, but what about Laplace? And Sayun's like, just do it. I'm in charge. There is a hero ready to protect the Ark. And then we go back 24 hours. So we're heading out with Mattis and the counters to set up, to release the raptures to attack the Ark so that they can be the heroes and they can be left alone with all this crazy bullshit and whatnot. At some point, Maxwell mentions that we seem really tense when we're talking about Sayun or everything that's going on with Sayun, and we're like, eh. And then Maxwell's like, yeah, she's like that. I get it. Typical Sayun. The counters back up. So we start off going out, and the counters are kind of back off a little bit so that it can be Mattis who is doing whatever. And then if we need them, we'll set off a flare, which doesn't end up coming up. So I'm walking around with Mattis. Laplace starts talking about being nauseous and whatever, and then kind of is acting a little weird. And when she's questioned, she's like, I don't know, must have been something I ate or something. And then the others are like, okay, yeah, that makes sense. We, on the other hand, are a bit more skeptical and try to question her, but she's like, no, I'm fine, don't worry about it. As we move forward, Laplace again mentions at her stomach and mentions that it's getting worse. And then she continues to start acting weird, and then Maxwell apologizes to us for it. And we're like, hey, Laplace, are you okay? And she says, of course, she loves being on the surface. She loves doing what she's doing. And we're like, okay. So eventually we get to the Barrier Institute, quote unquote, and this is where the new barrier is going to be set up. Mattis is very concerned about the location. It's like some rundown old factory looking thing or whatever. And the counters are all glancing at each other. And that's what Sayun calls. She's like, hurry up. This happened now. And that the counters have to wait outside. There's a little bit of argument about all this, but eventually we just comply to get done with the whole situation. So Mattis goes in, and we talk to the counters for a little bit, and they bring up, hey, maybe we should tell them. And no, we can't. We just got to get this done. It's the only way to, help clear Mattis's name, to be completely honest. And then plus, who knows what crazy thing Sayun's going to come up with. Once we're inside, Maxwell again questions this building. Something doesn't seem right at all to her. And then we eventually find this button, and that's the button they're supposed to press to start the barrier. So Sayun orders her to press the button. And Laplace is like, I got it. So she runs up to press it, and then we go to stop her, and we grab her hand before she can press the button, and she just slaps it with her other hand, which is the most obvious thing to do at all. And dud. It's not a new barrier. In fact, it's a calling signal. It's this loud blaring thing. And then Maxwell identifies it hold up, that's a rapture calling thing. That's not a barrier. We're literally calling raptures to the Ark. Sayun then calls back in and is like, all right, get out and fix it. And they're like, what the fuck? And she's like, you're the barrier, don't worry about it. Jeez. The building also starts to collapse, apparently, and then Laplace has a flashback, a Vietnam flashback, right? She starts remembering the tentacles, the corruption, the building that collapsed, that sent them all down, and all the crazy stuff, and she just completely shuts down emotionally. And Drake's like, I don't have time for this shit. So she picks her up and runs outside. So the building collapses, we're able to get out. Maxwell calls us out for knowing that this was a signal and that we should have said something, and that, we're kind of assholes. And then Sayun calls in and tells Mattis to go fight the raptures, to be the wall once again. Maxwell's super upset that Sayun didn't include them. And then Sayun's like, would you do it anyway? She's like, yeah, I would. And it's like, what about those other two? And she's like, okay. Good point. Then the conversation turns to Laplace, who's struggling real hard. She's curled up, not wanting to do anything. And Maxwell's like, she's an evaluation. And Laplace states that she's fine and that they're all dealing with trauma. And Drake's like, no, I feel good. I'm not having any problems with this traumatic experience. Maxwell's like, I'm not either. This is all on you. And Maxwell's like, you're having flashbacks, aren't you? You're remembering all this stuff. I can tell. You're sweating. You're talking about nausea. You're having this crazy traumatic reaction. And Laplace is like, I can't have it. I can't be having this. I can't be having a trauma. I can't be having any issues. I'm a hero and whatnot. And then she runs forward to fight in battle. So we chase after her, and she immediately freezes up as soon as she sees a rapture, and she starts shaking and breathing hard, and she can't move, can't fight back. And then she keeps imagining herself dying and being torn apart and being corrupted. At that point, Drake again swoops in to save her and engages in the raptures. After the battle, Maxwell's like, we got to do maintenance. There's absolutely no way. And Sayun's like, no, Laplace is fine. There's no way Laplace would not be fine. She's the best. And then she goes on this crazy rant about all that stuff. And Laplace is like, I'm not good. I need my nymph back. And then everyone gets super quiet, and she's like, the humans are right. It's like, better fucking get it together right now, or Missilus is done for. And then Ainz yells at her and tells her that, hey, you know what? If this goes down, I'm going to push it off on you guys. I'm going to say, you guys did this. You tricked Mantis. It's all on you. I recorded the whole thing, what she did with the drones and whatnot. And everyone will think it's our fault. And then she signs off. And it's just complete silence. At that juncture, Rappy's like, all right, let's go get this fucking thing repaired. Like, let's go get Laplace fixed up, or at least examined. So we find a place to rest and repair, and after the examination, Maxwell identifies that there's absolutely nothing wrong with Laplace's system, that this is all just trauma. Laplace gets super sad and kind of wanders off, and then the other members of Mantis wander off as well to get ready for battle. We talked to Drake. She mentioned, or before Drake leaves, she mentioned that Laplace is like over there in the corner and that maybe you should go do something about it so we can help her. So we head off to find Laplace. And then we have a conversation about how she's courageous, and then she's like, you were courageous even before the nymph, and she's like, you didn't know before the nymph, you don't know if I was courageous or not. And we mentioned like, well, after you were corrupted and your nymph was kind of like destroyed or whatever, you did show true courage, which she did. This is the part where she like shoot me in the head, or she like shot herself. And she's like, I don't remember any of that. And then we promise her that we'll reach out and help her no matter what. And at that point she runs away, and then Drake and Maxwell show up, and no, Drake, they don't show up. They're like watching all this unfold, and then they're like, she's such a fucking fool. Like, what's wrong with her? Anyway, so we gather everybody up, the counters and everybody, and it's like, hey, it's too late to like get in the way of the Raptors because there's no way for us to catch up, but we can attack from behind. If we hit them hard enough, they should reverse course and come after us to like defend themselves and take care of that. And then Drake gets super excited because attacking people from the rear is a villainous act, and she loves it. Simon, who's been listening in, says she will help, that she will guide us to where like the Raptors are and to where we can like hit them the hardest and get the Tyrant to turn around, and she'll turn everybody else around. She then promises Laplace that as soon as she gets back, they'll put a nymph back into her. Laplace is dead silent about this whole thing, and we head out as supervillains. So then all the girls except Laplace kill a whole bunch of Raptors, and we get closer and closer to the front of the pack. At some point, Maxwell pauses and hands Laplace like a handgun and is like, here, just in case. Because she can't activate her suit, which gives her like her super attack, which is like her super attack in the game, because she's so nervous, but she can like pull a trigger on this fucking thing. And then Maxwell gives her like some fucking real talk. She tells her she's always so brass, so arrogant, so annoying. She hogs all of Cyan's attention, but that honestly Laplace does usually the right thing, that she fights for justice, and that perhaps, aside from Vesti, she might be the strongest Nikke in the entire arc. But she needs to get her shit together. And when Laplace tries to talk back, Maxwell's like, shut up. I hate listening to people who are less intelligent than me. And Drake's like, yeah, you should shut up to talking to me too, Laplace. And Maxwell's like, you're in the same category. Shut the fuck up. And then Drake tells Laplace that she's going to show Laplace that villains are better at fighting. They runs off. And then everyone else follows except Laplace and us. She's looking at the gun. She doesn't move. And then we start trying to give her some encouragement and try to push her along to do the right thing. After this huge fight with all the Raptors, it ends up bringing Stormbringer, which is this huge Tyrant class Raptor that flies over. Because I thought they were just going to be like Lord. Oh, sorry, I said Tyrant earlier, but they're supposed to just be Lord class Raptors in this bunch. But there's Tyrant. Tyrant's like the super ones, right? They're super bosses. And they're like, fuck, what should we do now? And Drake's like, we're going to have to take this fucking thing down. We have to do it. And as Laplace is like the leader, Drake is taking over as leader because Laplace can't do it. So then they're able to take down Stormbringer with the counter's help. And when Stormbringer goes in, everyone's like super pumped up. They're all chatting with each other about how great everything was. And then Maxwell's like, we got to get the fuck back and get out of here. And continues to tell us to like hide in the back. And we're like, yeah, we'll do great because we got this hero by our side. Laplace continues to look at the gun nervously. And then a whole bunch of Raptors show up and it's like way too many. Like, we're getting overwhelmed by Raptors that all show up when they should have left with the Tyrant, got destroyed, but they're not. And then everyone's telling us to run, but Laplace runs at them and fires a couple shots, and she's about to get shot when we jump and push her out of the way, which we take a bullet. And it's hilariously enough, we take a bullet in the same place where we got shot by Crow. To start to pass out, we touch Laplace's heart and tell her that she's a true hero and that we believe in her. Everyone else gets shot down too, leaving only Laplace, who's totally freaking out. And then we get this badass cutscene.
私がここにいるんだ。みんな倒れてしまった。私にはニーフもないのに、こんな状態の私に一体何ができるだろうか。今すぐここから逃げ出したい。私はこんなにも弱く卑怯だ。だが逃げるわけにはいかない。私を信じてくれる君を守るために。遅かったじゃない。
やっと分かったようだな。
みんなを守るために目の前の敵から目をそらすな。絶対に引き下がりはしない。ヒーローは私の中にいるのだから。私がヒーローだ。
All right, so if you're just listening, what the cutscene shows is that Laplace finally overcomes her trauma because of the sacrifice of her friends and because friendship is magic. And then she is able to activate her suit and activate her weapon and use her super attack to kill all the Raptures. A bit later, the CEOs are all meeting with Ingrid and Sayun fight, and Ingrid's like, fucking Sayun, what's your problem? You can't be doing this kind of stuff. And then she's like, whatever, I do what I want, blah, blah, blah. And then Mustang gives her the same warning. And says some cryptic shit, and then Sayun storms off. Ingrid then asks Anderson about us, and we find out that we're hanging out in the hospital. Over in the hospital, we're watching a broadcast about how Mattis is being cheered as saving the Ark. The counters mention that there's absolutely no mention of us. And then at some point, after complaining for a little bit, Laplace, quote-unquote, heroic slides into the room, whatever the fuck that's supposed to be. She then apologizes for Sayun for everything. She tells us that Sayun is no longer going to ask us for anything ever again. And we're like, how can you guarantee that? And then we go back in time a couple hours from that, and it's essentially Laplace makes Sayun swear to stop doing bad things, or she'll stop being a hero and stop working for her and stuff. All right, so then back to the present in the hospital room. Laplace confidently says that we're good, and then she jumps out a window. We discuss this with the counters, and then we get a call from Anderson, and he's like, come see me right now. And so we get there, he gives us a huge drumming down, asks us if we would do it again. We say yes, and it's like, would you value the Ark, or the people in the Ark, or the Nikkes more? And it's like, well, both. We get no punishment, but we're going to have to come up with our own way to atone for our decision and causing all these problems and whatnot. We then tell him we're going to the Vapis facility, and so he approves more resources. Then we ask him if he knows about Vapis and all this stuff that's going on. He gets super sketchy about the whole situation and then kicks us out because he's got another meeting to go to, as he does when he doesn't want to explain things to us. As we're headed back to the outpost, we get a gun in the back of the head, right? It's Crow, of course, because she's some fucking crazy. She's so crazy. She just talks like crazy shit about us spoiling her plans, about causing problems. And then she says, even though we caused these problems to her plans, she's still not mad at us because essentially there's like a wick that's ready to explode at any point. And at this time, now that Nikke phobia has like died down because of like our work here and helping Mattis and all that stuff, it doesn't mean that when it gets lit later, it's not going to light like hugely and cause a huge problem. And that she wants us to be alive and there when it happens. And she like giggles and like runs off. She doesn't giggle or run off, but she like fades off into the darkness. It's fucking Crow. Anyway, back at our room, we find that it's just like more supplies we could possibly take to the surface. And so we're like talking about how to divvy it up and what we need to carry out. And it's like, just grab the best stuff possible and let's go. And everyone's super excited and like super ecstatic to go take care of this and have some of the best supplies we've ever had. Elsewhere, we have Birmingham talking to his Nikke, Papillion. And she mentions that she is his only Nikke, which is an interesting comment, right? Because he kind of like is sort of in charge of the Admiral, but A just is like they're all, I guess, are Nikke still, or whatever, however that works. But I guess she's his personal. I don't know. We get like Papillion for this part of the story, and then she like disappears into the ether to never be seen again. But he orders her to follow us to the surface and to look for Marion. We then take like, meanwhile, elsewhere, we see Uni like bashing a pipe onto the ground. And then Crow comes up and tells her that there's a way to remove her nymph so that she can actually hurt Cyan like she wants. And Uni gets super excited about it. And it's like, what do I got to do? And it's like, you have to help me make the Ark a prison. Dun, dun, dun. And that ends chapter 18 of Nikke, Goddess of Victory main story. So go ahead, like, share, subscribe, and comment, and I'll catch you guys later. Bye.